I'm Valeriano del Rosario, but everybody knows me as Val. I've been a member since October 2013. Our position within IR is we have the trademark and copyright section representing the Philippines. We tend to be, as I said, we're part of the IP and copyright. And the good thing was, coming into IR Global, we had already worked with some of the firms. So it's prosecution of trademarks. We're fortunate, although we're from the Philippines, we do have a bit of work to give out. But the thing about IR Global, if you come here expecting work immediately, you're coming with the wrong mindset. What it is creating the relationship, and hopefully if somebody does something for you, then that comes around, that somebody will give something to somebody else. So, as they say, what comes around goes around. The Singapore event was an easy draw for us because there's a lot of connections and there's a lot of business between Singapore and the Philippines. So when we were invited to come to Singapore and when we were invited to sponsor one of the events, that was a very easy choice to make. Again, it's the hallmark of IR Global, which is the roundtables. Roundtables, yes, having people speak to you, the inspirational speakers are quite nice, but it's always the roundtables and a chance to strengthen the bonds between the members. That's what I like best. It was a wonderful event. I think people were happy, people were enjoying themselves. And the great thing about the social events is you get to reconnect with friends. And that is the hallmark, again, of IR Global. Shanghai was focused on China. What Singapore does, it gives a bit of focus on not only Singapore, but the 10 countries that compose ASEAN, A-S-E-A-N, which has a single market of almost 700 million people. They reckon that in 20 years, it'll be the third largest economy in the world. It's growing fast. It's young people all working, earning money and spending money. And what this does, and it was mentioned by one of the keynote speakers, what this conference does, it shines a light on ASEAN and the potential for ASEAN to generate business for the world. Philippines and Singapore were the original 5 members of ASEAN. ASEAN is now a peaceful environment, but it wasn't so. In 1967, Malaysia almost went to war with the Philippines because the Philippines wanted to claim back North Borneo. But because of ASEAN, we've had a very peaceful environment since the formation of ASEAN. And growth will continue. As the gentleman, Mr. Douglas Fu, said during his keynote address, Singapore doesn't have enough people. They need people. And the people are coming from the rest of ASEAN. For example, the Singapore law firms are very active in trying to open up the Myanmar market. But again, not enough lawyers. Where do they get their lawyers from? The Philippines. So yes, lots of synergy between Singapore and the Philippines. For the Philippines, the biggest growth driver, one of the biggest, is what they call BPO, Business Process Outsourcing. It started about 20 years ago, and at the moment, it's worth about $17 billion of inbound money into the Philippines. And the Philippine personality, if I can call it that, is we're not big savers. We spend our money almost immediately. As soon as it hits our pocket, it's being spent. So condos are being built because the young people want their own place to live. Restaurants are always full. And what it does is for investors coming into Asia, and specifically ASEAN, there's a lot of money going around and there's a lot of business being done. So it's not only Asia for European and American lawyers. It's mostly Japan, you've got China, you've got ASEAN, you've got Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, 700 million people, and young people who want to spend money and create business. The most important thing about face-to-face networking, and it was something discussed during the table discussions yesterday. You see a name on the internet. You can say, okay, Chambers ranked, but you don't know the guy. And we were asking people around the table, given a choice between somebody who's just a name, you found his name on Chambers, or it's somebody whom you've actually spoken to across the table at an IR Global event, who will you go for? And the answer was IR Global members, because you reckon that he sat across the table from you. He's tried to be friends with you. You've tried to be friends with him. You have this feeling that he's not going to let you down, as opposed to somebody whose name you just picked up from the internet, yes, supposed to be highly regarded firm, but you've never met the guy. You don't know what he's like, you don't know how he thinks about you, and you don't know whether he will do the business for you. I find that there are certain people who like conferencing, and there are certain people who don't like lawyer conferencing. I'm lucky, I'm one of those who actually enjoys attending law conferences. And the thing about these things is you don't wait for somebody to create a friendship with you. If you want to create a friendship, you have to go out and create that friendship. You have to make an effort to make that connection and make that friendship with somebody. And I try to do it by meeting people. So last year, after the Amsterdam annual conference, I was traveling through Europe and I went to Budapest. And I made it a point to meet up with Csongor and his wife Jessica. My wife was with me. We had a wonderful meal together. This year, before this conference, I was traveling to Taipei and Japan. I rang up Nick Chen in Taipei, and he met my family. I met his team in his office, and again, we had a wonderful meal. And what that does, it builds not only friendship, it also puts you in their minds. So when something comes up in my area, who will they think of? They'll think of me. But it's not just work. It's because they're nice guys, they're nice people, and you want to hang out with them. What I love about IR Global is its openness and transparency. In the 20 years that I've been going to lawyers' conferences, the traditional model is you go to a room and there's somebody speaking up at the front of the room. He's basically trying to tell you how good he is and how much he knows about the subject that he's talking about and how good he is at that subject. But in the back of his mind, the reason why he's making this pitch is because he's trying to tell you subconsciously that if you've got work in my area, come see me. But you see, nobody comes out and says, how do we work together? That's the difference between IR Global and the other lawyers' conferences. Here it's very open. The table discussions are, hey guys, how do we get to work with one another? And that's what's refreshing about it.